Hey, today I'm talking about three 1964 Japanese horror films. And the names of those three movies are Woman in the Dunes, Onibaba, and Kwaidan. First up is Woman in the Dunes. Oh my god, I love this movie. It's so freaking good. So the basic premise is this man goes into the desert to collect some bugs and then eventually meets some people and he thinks they're gonna help him out, but actually they trick him into the sand pit where he gets trapped with this woman and now he's just stuck there for maybe the rest of his life, question mark? And yeah, no, it's so good. Like, the setting's just great. It's filmed so beautifully. They do such a great job with everything, but like the aesthetic and just like making kind of the mundane more terrifying. Like him just walking through the desert. You know, you remove the music and it's just like, it's a dude just walking through the desert. But the music there and it's like, oh, this is intense. What's about to happen? What's going on? I'm so scared right now, even though nothing is happening. So that was great. There's so much like existential dread within this film too, because he's just like, he's literally just stuck in a pit with this woman. I mean, there is a house and stuff and they have things to do, but it's just, it's such an intense situation. But that's just looking at the film on a very surface level. Breaking it down, this movie is chock full of some incredible metaphors. Like, it's a metaphor for how society views women as having no value unless they're connected to a man. Like, she is essentially gonna be left for dead unless they can get a man for her. And that's sad. And she also talks about like, what is my value outside of this place? Like, why leave when the skills that I have are not transferable to anything? Like, she knows the ins and outs of how to dig sand and that's it. But like, it's also a metaphor for debt and never being able to dig yourself out. All you're doing is just like delaying getting buried in the sand and that's it. It's also a metaphor for life and why do we hold on to things when we could just abandon them and move on? Like, she could just leave. She has the ability to, if she had the drive to do it, but like, she has a connection to this thing that's hers, even though it is just a really shitty situation. That's applicable to many things in life. Like, why do we continue to make choices that hurt ourselves? Both of the leads were freaking fantastic. I loved both of them a lot. Music, like I said, was spot on, so great. It was all around, top to bottom, really fantastic movie that I loved to bits. Great ending, just worked so well. So yes, I loved this movie to bits and would wholeheartedly recommend it. You want a good, fun, scary, interesting, metaphorical film? This is all that and so much more. I cannot recommend this movie highly enough. Next up is Onibaba. This film is also really good. The basic premise is, in olden times Japan, war has been happening for a while, and this mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are just struggling to get by in a world where women aren't valued. So like, how do they survive? Well, they have their ways. Maybe it's murder. And then one day, one of their old neighbors comes back from the war, and maybe he's a bit thirsty for this daughter-in-law, but the mother-in-law isn't a fan of that. All three of the leads did so incredibly well, but I have to extra shout out the mother-in-law character because her performance really would make or break this film, and she just crushed it. She did so well as this like small, fierce thing. A lot of her motivation is just like a fear of death, and she needs the support of her daughter-in-law in order to survive. So that's what drives her to do everything that she does in the film, and it's a perfect performance, such a great performance. I love the setting. It's in like this very tall grass area. It's very unique and I really love that. It was very interesting. I'm a sucker for good use of black and white, and this was a great use of black and white. Really added to the film's beauty. It's definitely an anti-war film that shows the pitfalls of placing little to no value in women. It's also a critique of society's views on sexuality, in particular women's sexuality, because a lot of it too is just like the daughter-in-law, her husband is probably dead, and you know, she's young and horny, but the mother-in-law makes a big deal about how having sex outside of marriage is such a big sin and you're gonna go to hell forever for that and burn forever for that. And like, that's a big part of the movie. But they literally kill people for a living. Like, there's so much murder that is done by the main characters. And it's like, yeah, the murder isn't a big deal, but the sex is a real big deal. That's such a universal issue that's still true to today about how justified murder is okay. But anytime you even are kind of horny, that's way worse than any kind of murder. murder. Even though, like, they also put in the movie, death is forever. It's also about pointlessly demonizing others. But yeah, no, I again really love this film and would totally recommend it. Just don't do what I did and watch it on your phone in public because, oh my god, there is so much nudity in this movie. That's a bad move. But yeah, no, thoroughly enjoyed, definitely recommend. And lastly is Kwaidan. This is a 1964 anthology horror film, and it was a mixed bag for me. This was definitely on a number of lists of great Japanese horror films from the 60s, and I can totally understand why, but like, it was a difficult experience for me. So I'm going to talk about each of the stories individually to kind of then explain why it's ranked where it's ranked. So the first one, the samurai leaves his wife because they're poor, marries rich, but is unhappy. He returns to the first wife, but maybe something's a little bit off with her. I was really bored with this one. It was way too quiet and way too slow, and like the big scary thing that's gonna happen felt very obvious to me. I feel like they should have had that reveal so much sooner. I think it's like 45 minutes long. I think had it been like a nice tight 20 minutes, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. I wasn't really freaked out by like the atmosphere and stuff, just because like it was a rundown building, but it didn't look like that scary of a rundown building, if that makes sense. I do like its vibe, but I was just so bored. If I were to rank just this one on its own, it would get my lowest ranking. It was a dim, like, I did not care for this. The second one though, it's a big turnaround for me. A man witnesses essentially Jack Frost kill his mentor. He later then marries her because she's hot. Unknowingly marries her, I should say. I mean, it's clear as her though. It was what I wanted though. Right away from the beginning of the section, it's like this very intense blizzard that's happening, and it's scary and it's intense. You're not really sure where the story's gonna go, and then it goes into some strange places, and then after it goes into a strange place, it just changes again, and it's like, what the hell is happening? And there's so many like eyes in the sky of just being like watched by spirits or something. And the sky in general is just so freaky and strange and trippy, and just, it works really, really well. And the end was really, really good. I mean, I expected a little bit of it, but not exactly what happened, and then I think they went even further beyond that to this very sad place that I just kind of wanted almost to sit in a little bit longer. And yeah, no, it really worked for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So this one was my highest ranking on really like. The third story was definitely interesting again. There's this haunted area where this blind musician gets sucked into this group of ghosts and he needs to get out of there. When we were dealing with the musician, that whole stuff was really good. It was really interesting. It had a really cool ending. I think it had like an interesting twist too at the end. My bigger issue with this one is that the beginning chunk of it is this very slow, boring story of how the ghosts all came to be. And I'm like, I don't care about how the ghosts came to be. I don't feel that it really adds a whole lot to the story. We just needed to like get past that stuff and get right into the ghost haunting part. I think we can learn about it, but not in like an extended sequence. It can just be kind of like a short summary. So yeah, I'd probably put this one in a quite liked. It was nice, it was cute, it was fun. My second highest ranking, so 4 out of 5 essentially. And then lastly is Ghost in a Cup of Tea. It was an interesting premise. I enjoyed how much he was just running around attacking the ghosts that were attacking him. I liked how short it was. That was definitely nice. But I wish there was more of a connection of like, why is this all happening? Like, I kind of thought maybe the ghost in the cup of tea was like haunting him because it was like someone that he had wronged or someone that he had killed back in the day. Or like, why is the ghost even in the cup of tea? Why is this ghost even bothering with this guy in the first place? It does make sense why he's bothering him later. So I just want a little bit more depth to it, but I do think it was interesting overall. I would say this is probably just a liked. It was good, it was nice. It didn't overstay its welcome, so that was good. So on the whole, I definitely enjoyed more of these than I didn't, but it was definitely a hard experience to get through at times. It even out to a quite like, so 4 out of 5. Would I recommend it? I'd say yeah. More cautiously though, it's an anthology film. So you might not necessarily agree exactly with how I would rank the 4 of them, but anthology films in general tend to not be the most even of experiences. So yeah, just a little cautiously recommend is what I would say. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Woman in the Dunes, sitting at number 14 in the really like section. And then after that is Onibaba, sitting number 35, again in the really like section. And bringing up the rear is Kwaidan, sitting at number 87 in the quite like section. And this is a total of 182 old movies so far this year.